Hello everyone, welcome to yet another tutorial. Today we are going to look at how to create an animation of a glass falling down and breaking into pieces like this. Alright, so you can see that the glass is moving slightly, then it tilts a little bit, then it tilts even more, and then finally it gives up and then it breaks into pieces. You can see that there are tiny pieces of glass at the point of impact and the other big glass shrapnels. So we'll see how to do this in Blender. I have created a tutorial on how to model the glass and I'll put the link in the description below. And I've also created a tutorial on how to create the marbles. So if you have not followed those tutorials, you can look at how to create the glass and the marbles. And once you are ready, then we will go into Blender. And I have the glass object and then I have those 4 marbles added in a plane, so we can call this our floor. All right, and the glass will have a rigid body, active rigid body, and everything else is default, but the shape is mesh for the glass because the glass has a very complex shape, so we have to use mesh. For the other thing is that make sure that all the scale is 1 and the glass is quite big, 2.3 meters. Physics works better with bigger objects, so unfortunately you have to work not to scale. The marbles have an active rigid body with the shape of a sphere, and again everything has default settings for now. Alright, and then the plane is passive rigid body. So if you select everything, go to object, rigid body, remove, we will set it up so the plane will have a rigid body which is passive. The glass will have a rigid body which is active, shape is mesh. Now for the wall you can do 1 rigid body, active, and then we'll bring the bounciness up, and then we'll select this, and I'll select the rigid body last. Go to object, rigid body, copy from active. Now all these have become rigid bodies with 1 click. Alright, so our setup is ready and it looks better in wireframe mode. So if I play this now, you can see that the marbles fall down, and we are ready to add our force field, which is wind. Alright, so we add a wind, and the wind direction is like this, and you can see that there is a speed to the wind. So if I go back and if I play this, and again we will go to side view and see the impact. Okay, so you can see that there is slight impact because of this wind, and the strength is 18. So I'll make it a round figure of 20. Okay, and that works well for my first take. So I'll make it 0 and let it settle. So it settles at around 20, 25. Okay, so I can start animating my wind. So I'll right click and say insert keyframe at 30. At 35 it catches a speed of 80. Right click, insert keyframe, and at 40 it becomes, I can simply duplicate this key and put it there. Okay, so I'll play this now, and then there's slight movement. So our animation will start at 0 And what we can do is in After Effects, we can hold this keyframe to just have a wind sound. That is what is happening in my animation in the beginning. There is just wind for a second or so. Okay, and then there is just a still image. So we will not render these frames, and then as soon as we hit 30, the force field will move. Okay, so this will be where the glass will be static, and then the wind will blow and it will move. Okay, and what we are doing is we are adding a cube, and we will just name it obstacle. This object is just going to act as an obstacle, object, scale, apply scale. Okay, so I'll just put it here, and doesn't really matter if it is wide or not, but object, apply scale. So we will add a rigid body and make this passive. Okay, so if I play this now, okay, so there is this slight movement in the glass because of the first wind. Okay, so if I play this, so at around 60 we are ready to apply another force field. So I will duplicate this key and copy at 60, 65. We had an field of the strength of 80. We can try 150. Insert keyframe, and then we will copy it to 70 and then see what happens. Okay, and then say at 100 we will again duplicate this, and this is 150, so we'll try 200. Right click, insert keyframe, and copy that keyframe. Okay, and then see what happens. Okay, and then we need to, let's say 150. We can duplicate these keyframes, and here we'll make this 300. Insert keyframe or replace keyframe. Control Z. I think it will replace all the numbers. 0. Okay. So let us see what happens now. So slight movement, a little bit more bend, it's tilting more, and 300 is not enough here. So even here, I think we can add more drama. So make this 300, replace keyframe, and make this 500. Okay, so you just have to see what works. Okay, so that is working fine. Did it break in the second one? First one moves, second one, oh, it broke here. So this is 300, this was 150, so this should be 200. Replace keyframe. Okay, And then you can time it, how much time you want things to happen. The lesser the better. I don't like to push things very far. The last keyframe is 0. Alright, so this looks good. Now we are ready to bake our animations. We'll select all these and we need things to stop at 182. Okay, and at 182 we will then, or maybe 181. 181. Here we will replace the glass with the other glass. So we'll bake it till 181. So I'll select all these, go to Object, Rigid Body, why am I not able to bake it? I don't know, something else was getting selected, I think. Object, Rigid Body, Bake to Keyframes, and we need 181 from frame number 1, and we'll start it. And it's going to take some time to bake. And our animation has been baked now, so you can see. Actually, I should have started from 30 because these frames are not necessary, so we can delete these frames. So things start from 30. So you can see from 0. Alright. So at this time you can save this file and then you can go to File, Save As. And then you can create another file so that if something goes wrong, your file crashes, you have this earlier version to work on. Now what we need to do is we need to break this sphere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add mesh sphere, scale it small, and then place it here. Okay, see, this is the point of impact, and then I'm going to shift select this and then shift P to object, select this object and make sure you apply the scale. Okay, and then you can also move the cursor where the glass is. And then you select the glass and go to add object, quick effect and CC fracture. Okay, if you don't see CC fracture, you have to go to edit, preferences and add cell fracture. Once that add-on is added, go to cell fracture and this window opens. We are going to use very less, which is 10 number of pieces. I'll keep it here. Object, quick effect, cell fracture. So the pieces are going to be 10. Noise, you can add a little bit of noise, will create interesting results. Recursions is breaking the broken parts. So I'll just keep it one. We don't need too many pieces for this one. If you want, you can try and see. We will see how it works. And then you will see cursor close. So there will be tiny pieces at this place and then the bigger pieces elsewhere. Right? Another important thing to pay attention to is scene collection. If you don't create it, it will populate this place. But if you create a collection named shrapnels, so all of these will be added to a new collection. So it becomes easy for us to select them later on. Okay. So with this selected, we'll go and break it up. And it has not done our job, so we'll go back to cell fracture. Let us click on child particles. Again 10.1, 1, cursor, shrapnel, okay. Object, cell fracture, child vertex. Yeah, the child vertex creates those smaller pieces at the break. So this is what we want. Okay, so again, if you look at the settings, use child vertices, source is 10, noise is 0.1, cursor close, create a collection, and that's about it. And then you will get this effect. Alright, and everything is added to the glass shrapnels collection. This glass now is not necessary, so you can delete this one or simply hide it. We don't need it. And then you will also have to get rid of it from visibility in renderer. So by mistake it doesn't render in the final render. Okay, and now what we need to do is select the shrapnels, select objects, go to rigid body, select one, rigid body, make it active, mesh, and then you have to select shrapnel, select objects, and then object, rigid body, copy from active. Alright, and then we will do the same with the ball. This ball is not necessary anymore because we got the fracture. This object, rigid body, didn't have friction and bounciness, rigid body, bounciness, rigid body, bounciness, rigid body. Because there are 4, I did it, otherwise you could use the same. And then if you go back, we will have to delete all these keyframes. Before the object, rigid body, remove. So first we need to delete the keyframes. And then add rigid body. So again, rigid body, bounciness, and then I'll go to object, rigid body, copy from active. So in one step, everything is done. And once you play this, it breaks apart. Okay. And now what we have to do is, so we will put these two clips together, we'll render it separately. We need that force to continue to work here, so I will use this. Get rid of all these keyframes, move it here, and then try to move this keyframe far so things move in the front. Okay. They're behaving weird. Okay. So you need to play with the numbers, but you get the idea. You can, even if you stop here, they will break, and then you can stop rendering that part. Yeah, you can try it again and then mess with these numbers, try different options here to see how to get a better result. But that's basically how you can break it, and then you render it and put it together. Find some sound effects. I have found this sound effect. Okay, so I just use the first part of this sound, and then I have the sound effects for if I open the After Effects file. So I have the wind sound, and you can see all these sounds that I have added. And these sounds have been animated for the wind. These are the wind sounds. Then the marble clinking sound. Every time the marbles move in the glass, I have a marble clinking sound. Then I have a grass break sound. And then you get the final. For rendering, I suggest that you download this Blender Instant Denoise Master. This Mohammad Zina has created it. It's an amazing denoiser, and it only took, so if I save this one and open this file, if I go to render image, this scene is rendered in just 22 seconds. So you can see it only took 25 seconds to render the scene. And so I installed the Blender Instant Denoise plugin by Motion. He has amazing tutorials and videos on his channel. If you go to denoising, I'm using that, and I'm rendering only at 32 samples. Alright, so for animation quality, this works very well, and you get very good results very fast. If you are using the normal NLN at 32 samples, it takes 45 seconds and there is a lot of noise. So you have to bump it to 64 or 128, which may take more than a minute. So you save a third of a render time and get almost same quality. So check that out. That's about it. Thank you very much.